About 1400 years ago, an event took place on earth. Allah said, "Catch up, O Jibril. If you don't, I will not leave a single living creature on earth or in the sky." Jibril had a time less than a second. Since we are still alive, it means that he had arrived, the most magnificent, fastest being ever created. How big is he? If we take into account that the distance between his two wings is 500 years, and that he has 600 wings, I think we can get an idea. Jibril. He is also called the Master of Angels. If you are curious about the mysteries behind his name, let's begin. Hey, the angel Gabriel is also referred to as Jibril in the Holy Quran. His main task is to bring revelation to the prophets, and when we consider that there have been about 120,000 prophets since the prophet Adam, isn't that a lot of tasks for Jibril? So, since our prophet was the last prophet to have come to earth, where is the angel Jibril right now, and what is he doing? When you learn about him, you will realize that he is a being that pushes the limits of the human mind. That is why I advise you to watch the video to the end, because I am sure you will be so impressed that you will not want to miss any detail. How big can you imagine the maximum size of a created creature? As big as dinosaurs? Or the height of a building or a skyscraper? Okay, let's exaggerate a little more. Let's say it's the size of the clouds or the size of a planet. First of all, you think, no way, how can that be? Right? Well, let's think about microbes, bacteria, which are impossible to see with the normal eye, and how small they are. Then imagine these bacteria living in the body of a blue whale, the largest living creature in the world, which can grow up to 33 meters in length. Put yourself in the shoes of these bacteria living in the body of a whale for a few seconds, and imagine that you can think like a human being. How would you perceive your surroundings? You are in a vast void in the dark, and you will never understand what you are living on. Trillions of other bacteria will come and go from the whale's birth to its death. Now, go back to our human state and imagine the world we live in, the space, the planets. Imagine that void of space where we think we know so much, but in fact, we know nothing. What are we in? Intellectually, how are we different from a bacterium on a whale? Just like them, we live in a space where we can't see the end, where we don't have the opportunity to look and understand from a wider perspective. Of course, being small does not mean that we are not important, don't get me wrong. But in a nutshell, we are in a reality that is incomprehensible to the human mind in terms of greatness, that we do not have the opportunity to understand for the time being. When we think about it from this point of view, maybe we can have a small idea of the size of the angel Jibril. Imagine that the sun, which is 1,300,000 times bigger than our planet, is so small that it disappears in the middle of Jibril's forehead. In many authentic hadiths, it is mentioned that Jibril has as many as 600 wings. He is such a big and powerful angel. The distance between his wings is 500 years. If a feather from one of his wings fell on one of the largest mountains in the world, it would be strong enough to move the mountain. He is created from light and has a very beautiful appearance. His face is white. His hair is like coral. His wings are the color of gall and adorned with pearls and rubies. His station is the Sidrat al-Muntaha, the seventh level of the sky. Every day the angel Jibril performs ghusl ablution in a river of light in heaven. And when he comes out of the river, Allah, Sutiri, creates 7,000 different angels from each drop that falls from his wings. Of course, with our human minds we may be asking ourselves, why so many angels? At this point, what else can we do but to say, Allah is incomprehensible? So, are you curious about the answer to the question, when was Jibril created? Our prophet once asked the angel Jibril how old he was. Jibril told him about a star that appears every 70,000 years, and that he had seen that star about 70,000 times. So, when we do the math, we realize that Jibril has existed for 5 billion years. Interestingly, scientists estimate that the age of our Earth is close to 5 billion years. Now, let's talk about how the angel Jibril came to the prophet. In this chapter, I will include the striking events that happened to the angel Jibril, and the 3 incidents that caused him to descend to earth at full speed in terror. Such an immense being, of course, did not appear in his true form to the prophets and other human beings. Jibril was a shapeshifter and could shrink to the size of a sparrow when necessary. Date: 610 AD. When the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, was approaching his 40s, he was in seclusion in the Hira cave on Mount Nur in Mecca. He was by himself, listening to himself in the silence of the mountains and the universe. But there came a time when the morning of that night would be different than usual. On the night from Sunday to Monday, just before dawn, he saw a being made of light on the horizon. He had never seen anything like it before. Immediately afterwards, he recounts that this luminous being addressed him as follows: "The luminous being I saw commanded me to read. I told him that I could not read. Then he took me in his arms and hugged me tightly and said, 'Read again.' I again said, 'I don't know how to read.' He took me in his arms again and said, 'Read once more.' I said I could not read, but the 3rd time he squeezed me hard and let me go. Then he said, 'Read in the name of your Lord, the Creator. Your Lord is infinitely gracious. He is the creator of the pen. He has taught man what he does not know.' This was the first encounter between the prophet and Jibril, and the first revelation of the Holy Quran. After that, for 23 years, the angel Jibril did not leave the prophet alone, and visited him thousands of times until his death. Of course, I have just mentioned the greatness of Jibril, and we understand from this that the prophet did not see the angel Jibril in his true form. No prophet throughout history has ever seen the angel Jibril in his true glory, covering the throne. But not the prophet. Only twice did he witness that miraculous event, and twice did Jibril appear to him in his true form. I will come to those moments that made the prophet tremble. After that first encounter in the cave of Hira, the angel Jibril would often visit the prophet and spend time with him. Even the people around him could see the angel Jibril and talk to him. But because the angel was disguised as a human being, they could not recognize him as Jibril. One day, however, Jibril, who was also there in the guise of a human being, asked the prophet a question and left. Then the prophet turned to his companions and said, "It was Jibril who asked me a question." The companions then learned that the angel Jibril had come to visit in a human body. The person disguised as Jibril was a man named Dihya, who loved the prophet and often visited him. Dihya was a handsome man with a beautiful face. He was originally from the tribe of Kelp in the north of the Arabian Peninsula. When he came to visit, he would bring gifts to the prophet and his grandchildren. But at first he was not a Muslim, and the prophet wanted him to become a believer. Later, it happened as he wished. Dihya accepted Islam. One day, Dihya came to visit the prophet. Seeing him, the prophet's grandchildren, Hassan and Hussein, jumped on him and started going through his pockets. "I wonder what gift Uncle Duya has brought us," they said. The prophet turned to Duya and said, "O Jibril, do not think that my grandchildren are naughty. They thought you were dewy. Whenever he used to come, he used to bring them gifts. That is how he accustomed them. That is why." Hearing this, the angel Jibril stretched out his hand and gave Hassan a bunch of grapes he had plucked from heaven. He also plucked a pomegranate and gave it to Hussein. The children who received the fruits went away from there with joy. After the Prophet's death, Duhya participated in the Syrian campaign during the caliphate of Abu Bakr. After the conquest of Damascus, he settled there and died there in 672. It is a fact that the angel Jibril came to the Prophet many times in his appearance. The grave of the real Duhya is still in Damascus, Syria. Did you know that the angel Jibril, who helped and guided the Prophet in many matters besides bringing revelation, tried to reach the earth 3 times with great terror? Did you know that he even said that if he could not reach the earth on one of these occasions, Allah would not have left a single living creature in heaven and earth? One day the Prophet asked the angel Jibril, "O Jibril, have you ever descended quickly from the 7 stories of heaven to the earth in terror?" Jibril replied, "Yes, O Muhammad. 3 times I had to descend to the earth in this way, just as you said." "What were they?" "Please tell me," said the Prophet. Jibril began to explain. The first time was when Prophet Ibrahim was thrown into the fire. While he was still in the air and falling into the fire, Allah, said to me, "Ask Ibrahim, does he have a wish from us?" Prophet Ibrahim was in the air and thinking, having been thrown into the fire. I quickly descended to the earth and asked Abraham if he had any request from his Lord. Prophet Abraham, who was falling in the air, replied, "If it is from my Lord, all this is on my head." Hearing this, Allah commanded the fire, "Be cool," and the ground, "Be soft." "And what was the second one?" asked the Prophet. Again, I had to catch up with Abraham when he was going to sacrifice his son Ishmael. My Lord said, "O Jibril, take these rams and bring them to Ibrahim. Let him sacrifice them, not his son." Fortunately, at that very moment, Abraham had the back of his knife against his son's throat. I was able to land next to him quickly until he realized this and turned the other way. "And what was the third?" asked the Prophet. Jibril, "O Muhammad, neither you ask nor I tell you the third." Then he began to narrate. "You were at the battle of Uhud at that time. You received a blow in the battle, and the iron of your helmet pierced your cheek. At that very moment, a drop of blood began to trickle down your cheek. The drop of blood that left your cheek began to fall towards the ground when the Lord of the world said, 'O Jibril, catch up. If the blood of my messenger falls to the ground, I swear that I will not leave a single living creature on the earth or in the sky.' I was going so fast that I reached the earth before the drop of blood reached the earth, and I put my wing between it and the earth. So a drop of blood from his cheek fell on my wing. Even Azrael stopped what he was doing and watched that moment." Although we occupy a tiny place in the universe with our tiny bodies, Allah has created us humans superior to angels. One of the important indicators of this is that angels worship against their will. That is, they have no choice. We humans, on the other hand, have the right to choose whether or not to worship among the thousands of worldly activities that can lead us astray and keep us busy. That is why, when we overcome many obstacles to serve Allah and fulfill our duty, this achievement is considered more valuable than that of the angels. Jibril, whose greatness we cannot comprehend with our human thinking, appeared to the Prophet twice in his true form. According to a hadith in Bukhari, the Prophet was descending from Mount Nur one day when he looked up to the sky. In that deep void of space, in the heavens, he saw Jibril in his true form. He was quite excited by the incredible sight of the Angel Jibril. But this was not the last time he saw the Angel Jibril in his true form. Jibril appeared to the Prophet in his true form a second time when the event of Miraj took place. One day, Hazrat Hamza said to the Prophet, who spoke of the glory and greatness of the Angel Jibril on every occasion, "I also want to see Jibril." The Prophet replied, "You cannot bear to see him." But Hazrat Hamza really wanted to see him. So the Prophet said, "Very well," the Prophet said, "sit down. Now raise your head and look." Hamza lifted his head up and saw only a speck of Jibril's green gem-like feet, and he could not bear it, and fainted. The companions said that during the battle, they fought against faces they did not recognize, shining like light. Sometimes, just before an enemy fell to the ground, his head would be separated from his body, but they could not see who was there brandishing a sword. This was because of the intervention of angels. It was not only humans who fought at Badr that day. On that day, Jibril and the angels behind him descended to the earth by divine command, and witnessed the first great victory of Islam from the heavens. Jibril, with his immense size, had authority over all the angels, ruled them. He was the master of the angels. Even though the angel Jibril's mission of bringing revelation has ended, he is still in charge of the other angels. We humans, how big we think we are, don't we? Do you run a state? Are you the richest in the world? How proud and grandiose you are, aren't you? You are the one starving children, leaving them to die. You are the one burning and destroying. The great people who change their world for a piece of paper. You are a victim of your ego now, but aren't you the one who will be a handful of earth after you die? Imagine the greatness of Jibril. Then remember that he is just a created servant, and the one who created him. Remember how great Allah is, His power, His might. Now think again, are you really the Great One? If you want more of this kind of content, don't forget to like the video, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to share the video with your loved ones so that such videos reach more people. May Allah be with you.